is here. I didn't even know James was here. Hey, by the way, the Raiders scored 63 points last night, and the Chargers fired their coach.
I got a question. I'm gonna steal this one
Literally
from Bill Simmons and cousin Sal.
mention that.
Where would you want to get fired from? Like, where would you, if you're Brandon Staley, would you rather get fired after a home game or on a Friday morning in Las Vegas? Like, what the hell? Stay here for the weekend.
At home.
Just live it up.
I just want to go home.
Oh
I'd
no,
rather be.
we,
I know you would.
Yeah, we going.
I know
we in
what-
Vegas.
I
We
know-
just
I know
going.
you.
It depends. Is that buyout hitting that same weekend too? That buyout money?
Yeah, let's say yes.
Then I'm staying in Vegas.
James,
What's
Plus,
up, man?
Vegas, you can just take a car ride home. Because my concern would be if I got fired in Vegas, eventually I got to go get on a plane, and then I might sit next to some Yahoo on the plane that wants to talk to me about me getting fired. So
Well,
I don't know that I want that.
I'm going to go out on a
rich.
limb and say no
Whatever.
one leaving Las Vegas gives a damn about Brandon Staley.
You imagine the
Just
Chargers
a
fan
guess.
coming home, you got to sit next to.
hey, and look, it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one getting fired, but I'm rich. Talk to me about getting fired. I don't care. You know how much money they're paying me to fire me? Sure, let's talk about it.
Anytime,
Let's have this hour flight talk about it.
anytime you get paid to be fired, you did okay.
That's true.
You
Lots
did
and lots of
a-
money to get fired.
You're listening to D'Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM KRXQ HD2 Sacramento ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app and live
There goes
with our main man, the other half of
goes
the
Big Dom
Insiders.
here as I rewatch Niners.
Oh, there's Dom. Yep. And James Ham is the enforcer here of ESPN 1320 and the host of the Insiders. James, we just came to the realization that the NBA put out their MVP ladder list, and Fox is nowhere to be found. And as a matter of fact, of all of the 30-point scorers in the league, there is one who is not in the top 15 of their MVP rankings. Do you want to guess which one that is?
That's wild. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, I'm assuming, but like,
Yes, it's De'Aaron.
how do you have a ladder missing a rung? Like that doesn't make any sense. That like it's just, I hate to say it, it's just bad reporting. Like at the end of the day, it is like I'm not sure why we have like people make lists all the time. I have railed on lists forever. Me and Kyle
Yes.
we've done multiple shows on how much we hate lists.
Mhm.
And that's what this is. It's just it's a list by somebody who clearly doesn't watch enough basketball. Because I mean, if you don't think he's a top 15 player, well, you're wrong. Like it is, that's a fact. He is a top 15 NBA player. He's probably a top 8 NBA player right now. You just like there, you can't avoid it. Like statistically speaking, however you want to look at it, like, and I'm assuming Domantas Sabonis isn't on the list either, even though he finished last season second in the league in win shares. Like those things matter. Like these are impactful players. Their team is 14-9. They're good. They're right in the thick of it in the Western Conference, and like it is disrespectful. Like I would, if I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm just shaking my head because if that's the way they're thinking and that's how they're promoting your team, that's not good come like all-star time.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what the conversation we just were having about. It seems impossible that this would happen, but the fact that we may have to sweat out De'Aaron making an all-star team is crazy.
The fact that we'll have to sweat out De'Aaron making an all-star team more than De'Aaron's going to sweat it out is crazy.
Kenny, there's a guy who put a list out that had Brock Purdy as a 32nd quarterback in the NFL. And then moved him to like number 22 after 8 weeks and still had Tom Brady and like other dudes who are horrible at football and ahead of him. Like, again, Kyler Murray was ahead of Brock Purdy after Brock Purdy had played 8 weeks.
Mhm.
And so, like, these are lists you just look at it and you shake your head and go, you know what? Don't be a casual. Don't be a casual, whoever it is. And I don't know who's writing it, but yeah, it makes me question why anyone would go to thenba.com to read an article.
I think we should start knowing who coaches vote for too. Because I'll start looking up. I'm sorry, De'Aaron torched your ass, Mark Dagnall, for 43, and you picked who?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to start looking. I'm gonna start. I think we should start. Y'all like transparency?
Mm-hmm.
Give me some transparency when we see who these coaches vote for the All-Star game. James, it's always a lot more fun after the Sacramento Kings win, as they did 128-123 last night. It's a lot of fun when the superstar on the team goes for 43. It's been kind of a weird day, though. The Jake Fisher thing got a lot of people talking about what Toronto wants for Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby. And, of course, from Sacramento, that was Keegan Murray. The article clearly states that's too steep of a price for Sacramento. They're not interested in it. And it's just created all sorts of conversations about how do you take the next step forward? Who are you willing to trade? What is the best acquisition out there? There's a variety of different names that are out there, with December 15th being here and this being, I guess, the official start of trade season. Is there one that you like over the other? And are any of these, James, realistic?
As far as like what were the options for the Kings here?
Like Siakam is out there, OG's out there. There's Markkanen noise again. There's Zach LaVine noise. Those are
Okay.
ones you hear about a lot.
Yeah, so when it comes to Toronto, this is how we started the conversation last year with this whole deal. And I remember you guys got upset with me and then made sure everyone knew that James said that the Kings were going to trade Keegan Murray.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember this, right? When you guys
James
did this
hates
thing?
Keegan, yes. Yeah. I
James hates
remember.
Keegan, and James is trying to trade Keegan.
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically all I was saying. If the Kings call and say, "Hey, I want Pascal Siakam," Toronto on the other line says, "I would like Keegan Murray." That's how the conversation starts.
And
That's
Monty
not how
goes, those two things don't match because my player has years left with your franchise.
click.
And yeah, your
Yeah.
player has a month and a half with mine.
Yeah. Well, the problem the Kings have is that the only way for them to land a Pascal Siakam is very simple. They have to trade for Pascal Siakam. And that means they have to outbid other teams for Pascal Siakam. They do not have an option in free agency to go out and chase a Pascal Siakam because they don't have any free agent money to spend for the next couple of years. And so if you're going to land him, that means that you go into a competitive pool of teams looking to improve themselves, all of which who have to come up with some way to match salary with a guy who makes 38 million bucks and who's in the last year of his deal and who may or may not want to sign with your franchise. So there's so many layers to this that, like, as soon as Keegan Murray comes up, the phone hangs up. That's it, right? So you listed a couple other players like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. Yeah, I take both of them. I take either one of them. I take both of them. But I don't know. Like, I'm not giving up Keegan Murray for a 6-month or a 3-month rental of either one of those guys. That's just not
Which one
happening
makes the
at all.
Kings the best? Which one puts the Kings like in we can make this Herter, Barnes, however you want to work it. Which one of these completely fictitious trade scenarios put the Kings in the best position?
Yeah, so I was of the opinion that it would be OG. That was where I've been for the last like year. I really like OG and Anobi as a player. I think he's a guy who steps in and basically he's just like Harrison Barnes last year, the year before Harrison Barnes on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, he's elite. He can defend 1 through 5, and he's really, really good. And he's physical, and he can change your whole approach. As we've gotten further and further along in this whole deal, I might be leaning more towards Pascal Siakam at this point. I think Pascal is a better player overall. I think he's a solid defender. He's a solid rebound, not a great rebounder. He's a really good scorer. He's usually a really good 3-point shooter, but he hasn't been this year. But the other thing is he's a really good passer and creator. And so I think that this team still needs that piece that goes with Sabonis. So when Sabonis steps off the floor, you don't take this big dip and you don't have to figure out a different way to play the game. And that's where I think Siakam can play the 4 and the 5. And in this situation, you would slide Keegan Murray to the 3. And I think the Kings would be like, like Western Conference contenders, and that means NBA contenders with Pascal Siakam. Now, if you have to gut your whole team to get there, that's tough. But I look at Pascal as like a different type of player. I also understand that once you make a move for him, you're pretty much toast, because if you're going to have to pay him 40 million a year, then you're going to have three $40 million players. And then if Keegan Murray becomes the player you think he is, then he's going to become a $30 million player. And if Malik Monk wants to stick around, next thing you know, that's another $78 million over 4 years. And so it's not my money, it's Vivek's money, but we're already looking at like, I don't know, what is that, $180 million without even like really breaking into the math of it. And that, like, how do you feel the rest of your roster in that situation? And I guess you nickel and dime it and you figure it out, but that's where Siakam really is difficult, because he's going to want just basically straight up 40 million a year for the next 5 years.
And to be honest with you, if you're making that move for Siakam, thinking that you're putting yourself in the category of being an NBA champion, I wouldn't. Once again, it's not my money. It's easy for me to say, but I wouldn't have a problem with it. Like that's 5 guys right there that you've built your franchise on. Yeah, absolutely, you go nickel and dime everything else everywhere. Rookies. I don't know if you have mid-level with a little stuff like that. Like
The key analysis of the world. Yeah.
right. That's those 5, which should be enough, which is like what Denver has or anybody else at Phoenix. Like I'd have no problem being maxed out financially with those 5 guys.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how much you're going to have to shell out for luxury tax, how much all that stuff, and be a repeat offender. Is there a point where you lose your draft picks? Like, there's a lot of questions that you have to answer when it comes to this, and I would just say that it goes down to like advanced roster building and looking not just this season and not next season, but like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years out. Like, how do you manage this? And that's going to take, Monty McNair, Wes Wilcox, and like a big, gigantic abacus to like sit there and move all the pieces around and try to figure it out. But that's always kind of the concern. Like, if you're going to go to that level of player, then maybe you do have to move Keegan, because Keegan is the player who's going to make 30. And maybe you need to settle in on two $15 million players to go with the other uh, $40 million players. And I'm not saying that that's where I would go. I'm saying that that's part of the equation. You have to start breaking down the math and what it looks like 3 years from now. And, if you're not a contender, what that looks like and how do you get out from underneath some of that money and all that. So I still think the Kings at this point, like, there are players in the league, if for some reason Milwaukee calls and says, we'll give you Giannis Antetokounmpo for Keegan Murray, you have to say yes, right? But then they're like, what's the tier? What is the level? How far do you think, if you still believe that Keegan Murray's an all-star and you don't have to pay him really for another 2+ years, like, and you think he's going to be an all-star, you're not trading him for Lauri Markkanen. And I know that, like, I asked that question last year, and that wasn't happening. They think Keegan Murray will be a better player than Lauri Markkanen. Although I do love me some, like, Lauri Markkanen on a front line with Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis. I'm all in. If you can make that happen somehow, I'm all in.
And I think part of the reason some of these conversations escalated a bit, not just the reports, not just December 15th, but the fact that the Kings got a win last night, which is awesome. They beat a Western Conference foe. They beat a young and up-and-coming team. They beat a massive superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with our own massive superstar in De'Aaron Fox. But, man, it was hard to notice, and maybe you didn't notice in the moment because of what De'Aaron and Domas and Malik were doing. But, man, that box score looks pretty bare again when it comes to Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes. And, James, these games are starting to add up. And I think that's, you get into the, hey, Kings, it's all right. The Kings got to win. Well, they didn't win against the Clippers a couple of days ago, and they had damn near identical, box scores to what they did last night. and Herder's games are starting to add up a little bit. Kings fans are always going to have a radar when it comes to what Harrison Barnes is doing. And now I think the conversation has become, oh, that's good. How far can we actually go with this team if these guys are up and down like this?
I think it's a great question. I think that there is concern about everything you just laid out. I had written one of my 6 quick thoughts and then I swapped it out at the last second. Was that Harrison Barnes had just completely vanished, and not only had he completely vanished, but Mike had stopped going to him. And like there was a point where Harrison Barnes had played I think he only played 6 minutes in the first half. And so he was making a coaching decision to say, "Hey, we're not doing this. We're not doing this again." Harrison rebounded and played all right down the stretch, but his numbers were still like really, really bad. Like he just wasn't that effective. I thought defensively he was okay, but like overall, I don't think he was that effective. When it comes to Herder, like his shots have stopped falling again, and like his production is dipping so dramatically, and it does coincide with Malik Monk just going out there and taking your minutes. And not only that, but Keon Ellis saying, "Okay, like, look, if I'm not the shooter that Kevin Herter is, but maybe I am tonight." And now, next thing you know, he's 5 of 6 from three, and he's shooting 38% from three, and shooting better than Kevin Herter from 3-point range right now. So, I think that's one good thing about Mike Brown is they brought back the same team, but they really didn't bring back the same team. This isn't the same team at all. Sure, Domantas Sabonis is the same player he was last year. Just line up the stats, he's the same dude. Outside of that, De'Aaron Fox is averaging 6 points more per game. It took this other just monstrous leap. We're starting to see Keegan Murray heated up. We're starting to see Malik Monk is up over 25 minutes a game, and that's climbing like straight up, just stealing your minutes. Davion Mitchell is completely out of the rotation. Keon Ellis is now the man. So like we're seeing it's the same group, but it's not the same team. This is not the same rotation. It's not the same players playing minutes. And so I think it's interesting, especially like when you start adding up all the extra shots that some of these guys are taking and some of the shots, where those shots are coming from. I think it's pretty surprising. I didn't think it would kind of go this way, but I think it also opens the door for the Kings to like maybe make some moves that we didn't see coming even like 2-3 weeks ago.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, right? Like you got to ask yourself if the moves that are there to be made will help improve your team. You know what I mean? The guy talked earlier about making moves just to make moves.
Mhm.
That's not what Monty's trying to do. And when you talk about improve the team, it's not just, oh, we're a little better here. It's we're trying to vault into a different category with the team that we have right now. Like they don't play the same way they played last year, it feels like. You know, Malik Monk and Fox, they've got the ball a little bit more, in my opinion, than they had last year. ISO, pick and roll, all this other stuff. So you've got to get guys that complement that. Maybe Kevin Herter doesn't complement that anymore. Maybe he complemented the way you played last year,
Mhm.
but this year you need a slasher or something like that. Maybe that's what you need. And I feel like that's the evaluation process that's been going on these first 25 games or so. And I don't know. I think they're ready to make a move if need be. The question is, do you think they feel like they need to make a move to
Oh
go?
no, I definitely think like the noise you're hearing out there about the Kings wanting to be aggressive and being open to things. Yeah. I mean, they understand that they have a really, really good team, but I don't think that anyone there believes they have like an over the top great team. Now, I think that what they do believe is that, there is a moment where, you get into a playoff series against like whoever it might be, like you get to the second round and you somehow squeeze through and you make it to the Western Conference Finals, and then all bets are off. Maybe the other team has an injury. Maybe you face another team in the finals that has an injury. Maybe just somehow you're a bad matchup for somebody in the Western Conference Finals or in the finals. So I think that there's a way in which you can see that the Kings could somehow win something here, right? But I don't think there's a way that you can guarantee it or that you feel really confident in it. And they're probably, you know, maybe one big piece, but that depends on how many smaller pieces it costs you to go get that one big piece away, from being something that's like more. But like all of those things cost something. And so you have to, it's all risk reward. It's all like risk management. And you have no idea at the end of the day whether all of the ingredients you throw in the pot are going to work together. And for right now, maybe you can like get through the next month on a wing and a prayer and using guys, and seeing how they fit and hoping that the chemistry starts to build and the defensive numbers start to get better. But you still like you'd be crazy not to see like the hole that's in this roster still and to try to attack that. And by attacking it, it's got to be with someone who's better than the players you have right now.
Why are we acting like the Kings aren't already making moves? James, tell us about Juan Toscano Anderson.
Yeah, so
30 minutes a game starting on Saturday against the Jazz.
Yeah, I really like him. To be honest with you, this is a higher energy guy. He's a guy who Mike Brown has a bunch of time with in Golden State.
Yeah.
I think the best part about him is kind of the same thing that I've said about Keon Ellis. The best thing about Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis is not asked to do anything differently than he's ever done in his entire career as a basketball player. Probably as a high school player, as a college player, as a G League player. You go out there, you play hard on the defensive end of the ball, you fight through screens. We Mike Brown had this crazy thing where he started talking about Bruce Bowen and comparing the way that Keon gets through a screen or a pin down to how Bruce Bowen did it. He kept saying that he's not Bruce Bowen, but he would like him to be Bruce Bowen. And the fact is that, like, okay, maybe he is a guard version of Bruce Bowen. And so the thing about JTA, it's the same. It's that he has always been this player. And so you go out there, you play hard, you leave it all out there. You know exactly what your role is. Don't do anything stupid. Play within the confines of your role. Bring energy. Be a good guy in the locker room. And I think he can actually help. Now, does that mean he's going to be the difference between the Kings winning like an extra 3 games or something? I don't know. But I will tell you is that he fit in with the Golden State Warriors. And if he can fit in with the Golden State Warriors and he understands how to fit in amongst a group of, Hall of Famers, he should be able to fit in on your team if he wants to stay in the league. And so that's a good thing. Where the opposite would be maybe a Chris Duarte, who's still trying to figure out how he fits in with the Kings. He's a third-year player, but he missed most of his second year. He doesn't know how to go out there and just straight up fit in. And that's where I think Juan Toscano Anderson can help you. And it's an unguaranteed contract. It is. It, like, at any point, they can drop back to 14 roster players. They can sign someone else, or they can make a 2-for-1 trade or 3-for-4 trade, whatever it might be. It's a non-guaranteed deal. They can, they have roster flexibility leading up to the deadline. They need it.
We'll come back. We'll talk more with our Kings insider of the insiders here, James Ham with Dylan Casey on Sacramento sports leader ESPN 1320. Excellent.
Chargers, man. That's just terrible. Ooh, a 27-point playoff lead.
That's
Who is that?
incredible.
Chargers. Last year to the Jags.
Oh.
Scored
Oh, man.
4
Brandon Staley's so bad. Like, that guy, I mean, I
that's-
would have told him he's got to find his own ride home.
I hadn't
Like-
seen that angle of that catch.
Me
That was
either.
phenomenal.
42-0 is insane.
The pick or something else?
Yeah, the pick.
Yeah,
the pick.
Oh yeah, on the screen pass, that was
Yeah.
nuts. I talk
I
about
hadn't
jumping
seen-
around.
I didn't know he got it with one hand like that. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, he'd overrun the play so far, like he'd called it. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pull up one and say no. Yeah, Zach LaVine has never played defense in his entire life. He has no interest in playing defense, but he wants to play 30-something minutes a night, maybe 35, and he wants to score 25 or 30 a game. I like the Kings don't need that,
Oh, we
in
got
all
that,
honesty.
got that new Beyonce joint in the 4 o'clock hour. I don't
B,
think we've played that yet.
the grown woman one.
No,
Or
my
the other
house.
one? Oh, my
the
house.
Renaissance release.
If anyone misses the Mias Queta, he's starting today for Boston.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Their top 3 centers are out today.
Man, and Shemezi started for
the Suns the other day.
Suns the other day.
The
Yeah,
We
like
might,
Queta's
see,
a
we
Queta-zilla.
star.
might see Kata next week.
You might, honestly.
Oh,
Standing ovation.
Was Sacramento the first team to go in on Josh Giddey like that? The first fan?
I think
I'm
so.
not sure, but that was
no. I think
Oh, no,
Detroit
no?
did. I think it was Detroit that did
Mm.
that first.
Mm,
I hadn't heard about that before yesterday.
yeah, they got him. I hadn't seen it either.
I agree with this band. Oh, I would rather have Cruz over Levine. I don't want Levine's contract. I don't want his knee problem. I don't want his defensive capabilities. This, yeah, I'm all in.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, James.
But that
James-
cost you Keegan.
I don't think
There's
so.
no.
I don't think it costs you, Keegan.
You're doing it. You're doing it if you're Cleveland because you think we've lost them.
Yeah, you're gonna lose him.
Give me Herter and Barnes and
And whatever
3
you
picks
can
or
get.
whatever.
James, you can wait till we get on the radio because somebody asked about this specifically, but they wanted to know what's the first round pick the Kings can trade. But we'll say.
Oh, I
we'll
can't
say-
explain it.
We'll say.
John, was that your big ass picking up the PlayStation this morning? I saw it on the. I was watching you guys at the time, and James was like,
I couldn't
think
see
this
it.
is John Poles.
That's
And then
gotta
I-
be Big John
I
Poles.
saw the figure. I was like, that's got to be John.
I couldn't see him, but I'm like, is he a really tall guy?
It's
And
like 7'8". I was like, that's John Poles.
Bro,
right
Big
there.
John Poles is like a name built for WWE champion.
Oh,
There you go.
absolutely.
I'm telling you.
That's
Abs-
gotta be Big John Poles.
John Poles is going to be the one to break Roman's streak.
He's in Hulk Hogan with a big boot to win the title.
Mhm.
he got his PS5 and his
Well, there's 2 here. Is one
2K.
for me and one for Kenny.
Yeah, I need one.
No.
Oh,
No, the guy
thanks.
today who won was in Huntington Beach. He's got to drive
Well,
up.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Casey in Huntington Beach who watches on the stream.
Well, shout
That's
out to him.
tremendous. That's tremendous.
Love it.
We're coming
We
back.
got a lot
James.
of calls. All right.
All right, we're back here. I'm a bad host and don't know which should we start with Donovan, and that ties into the draft thing. Donovan Mitchell came up. The Cavs are dying, and it's really tough to watch. My man Evan Mobley's out. He's having a scope, which he can recover from a scope. Like, okay, he's gonna have a tough go the rest of the season. Darius Garland is out like a month. They were already underachieving. JB Bickerstaff could be on the verge of the Brandon Staley treatment here coming up soon. There were already talks from Ham's boy, Tim Bontemps, about hey, if I'm Cleveland, I trade him yesterday. And he was saying that like 5 months ago.
He's gone. He's not staying. He's gone.
Well, Bontemps is a turd, but he might be right. He might be right on this one. And there's New York noise. There's all sorts of noise that he's not going to sign any sort of extension with Cleveland. But it sparked the conversation, as they all do. Would you do it? So I ask you, James, would you put together a deal for Donovan to get to Sacramento?
Okay, so right now Donovan is owed $33.1 million this year, $35.4 next year, 37. He has a player option in 2025-26 at $37 million bucks. Yeah, he'd be on my short list of players. Like, first of all, him and
go ahead, sorry.
Well, I think him and De'Aaron Fox have a really, really good relationship. They've been friends for a long time. They played AAU ball together. They're in the same draft class. They're not the same grade. Donovan's a year older, and so he was always like a year older. And Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is a guy who coming into the league was an elite defensive prospect, and I think he's been a good defender in his career. Although he did have the last year in Utah where it was a hot mess, and I don't know what happened to him on the defensive end. Overall, though, like this would be a dynamic duo in the backcourt that would just be crazy. And so, would it cost you Keegan Murray? It might, but you're getting a guy who averages 27 a game who, has springs in his legs, and would your backcourt would be undersized because he's not that big. And so pairing him with De'Aaron Fox side by side, but I think you could still be like super aggressive. You play passing lanes really well. I think you'd be okay defensively, to be honest. I don't know that you would take that big of a step back. I like him. I think he's a leader. I think he's a guy that like is well respected around the league, that everybody likes around the league. Like he has a lot of friends around the league. The questions would be, could you get him to stick in Sacramento? Maybe he does want to be a New York guy the rest of his career, which is, something that I think people have put out there for a while that either are Knick fans or New York media.
Yeah,
I think
facts.
you get him in
Nick
Sacramento for
supporters. Not
Yeah.
naming any names, James, but
Yeah.
rhymes with KC.
Wow.
I said I wasn't going to name any names. It rhymes with.
Well, I responded to what it rhymes with.
Well, I just think that like he's a player that could really take you to another level. And where Zach LaVine's never played defense in his life, Donovan Mitchell has. He's just a much better version of of Zach LaVine, in my opinion, and someone who hasn't had the crazy injury history or anything else. And he's a guy who fits in. So yeah, I would that's a guy I would swing for the fences for. And that kind of like I think the question you were asking is, when do the Kings have draft picks that they can trade, right? So the Kings, if they make the playoffs, their 2024 goes directly to the Atlanta Hawks. If they don't make the playoffs, it's still tied up in 25, and we have the same thing play out again, but the protections move. So I think it goes. It originally was it was a lottery protected, and then top 12 protected, and then top 10 protected, and it stays top 10. And if not, it gets relayed. As of right now, what the Kings can do is they can trade their 2026 first round pick, but it has an asterisk with it. And it says that if you get this pick, if 2024 is satisfied, if it's not, then you won't get this pick until 2027. If it could be the 2025 pick. And if the 2025 pick doesn't get sent over, then it would slide down to a 2028 pick. So the Kings could offer a 2026, a 2028, and a 2030 first round pick right now. But they would have asterisks with them. And you can only trade out 7 years. So someone would be taking a gamble that they might lose a first round pick in 2030.
So the asterisk comes off if they make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, as soon as they make the playoffs, then yeah, the pick is they can the next level of picks goes.
And we think we always talk about this, James. If they wanted to convert that to an automatic first rounder for Atlanta, they can do that, and then there wouldn't be an asterisk on that pick anymore, correct?
No,
On the
totally
26.
true. Yeah, they could go to Atlanta, and if Atlanta says yes, we'll take the pick, then that's one thing. But what if Atlanta wants one of these players the Kings are talking about? Then they could play hardball and say, no, we're not going to do it. Or yeah, we want a second round pick to do that. And then the Kings will be like, all right, well, we'll just wait till the summer, and then you won't have any say. So yeah,
You would so my concern, I love Donovan Mitchell. I love him here in Sacramento. I did that. Absolutely. My concern is the years left on the deal. And I don't know if because he's got like a year and a half left, if I could give up Keegan Murray for the hope that I could resign him. I think
yeah,
you'd have I think you'd have a really good chance of re-signing him just because the Fox connection. I think he would love it here in Sacramento. I think you got a better chance than maybe Cleveland does. But giving up Keegan in that deal, that's asking a lot, knowing I don't have him for 3 more years.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep saying this, like, any trade that the Kings are trying to work out, it's gonna hopefully be without Keegan Murray in it, and that's why, like, and there might not even be a way in which they would do it without it being, like, an over the moon, can't miss, player X that, like, fits perfectly and everything goes, right? Because if you were to give up Keegan Murray in a trade for Donovan Mitchell, you're also gonna have to give up another, you know man, you got a lot of money you're gonna have to give up. So another 18 million bucks in salary. So whether it's, some sort of compilation of players or if it's someone like a Kevin Herter or something, what you don't want to do is you don't want to take too many steps backwards to take a potential step forward.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, if I'm the Kings, it would probably be a different package where you're offering up Herter, you're offering up Davion Mitchell, you're offering up Chris Duarte, and then like 3 first-round picks. And again, that might not be enough. And it's probably not enough. So, but that's where I'm starting. I'm not going starting out with Keegan Murray as part of any deal. And again, I would have to really sit down and do the math here to figure it out. But whether Donovan Mitchell reaches the level of player that I would ever consider, that I think the Kings would consider trading Keegan Murray for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There would be a bidding war for him, though. Like more
For
so
Donovan?
Donovan. Yeah,
You think so?
I do.
With the year and a half situation?
I think you'd see a lot of the same teams. You mentioned Oklahoma City earlier,
Oh yeah,
Indiana,
that's the
and
problem.
that's where that's the thing. Them boys about 90 miles away because I start looking at contracts, right, that can get moved.
Mhm.
And I chuckled last week. I don't know. I think I don't know if I said it on the air or during a commercial. You know what? I think it was when the Pacers OG Siakam stuff came up. A deciding factor, or not a deciding factor, a really strong component in a trade offer from the Pacers. It's Shivano. It's a around $20 million expiring contract.
Do you think that there's a division situation in that though? Like, I don't know if we trade Keegan Murray to the Warriors.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Indiana and Cleveland got
If
their
the
own
offer is
thing.
good enough, I don't know. Like if the offer is good enough, do you really go? Because if you're Cleveland, like what are you doing at this point? Like if you're Cleveland, like you're done,
Mhm.
aren't you?
Well,
Like
for
you're,
this season,
yeah,
but you have a young
yeah,
roster.
no, but you
Mobley.
got Mobley, and you're worried. Like you're if you're moving forward with this with Donovan, you're probably thinking Donovan's going to New York. It doesn't matter. Pacers can do whatever they want to. Donovan's going to New York. We know, most importantly, he's not staying here. Let's get what assets we can from them because you're getting the Shivano contract. They're not re-signing him anyway, so that doesn't matter. And you're getting draft picks. So maybe you take a hit. You're taking a hit by trading Donovan Mitchell anyways. Maybe you take a hit for a year or two.
Yeah.
You got Evan Mobley, still trying to find his legs a little bit and see if you can build anything from that.
Yeah. That's a good
You
point.
still have Darius Garland. I mean, I think that's the problem they have
I
right
like
now.
Darius Garland. Yeah.
Like this season might be shot, like because
This
of
is gonna
the
be
the
shot
the
anyway.
2 injuries. Like one day you lose 2 major pieces. I mean,
That was
that's
tough.
that's wild. What Garland's out weeks with a
month.
broken jaw,
Yeah.
and then you've got 6 to 8 weeks for Mobley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means that like you're gonna have a tough time recovering. So yeah, I don't know. Like, look, I need to go through and I need to make a list of what players like reach what criteria, and it's based on length of contract. It's based on age. It's based on fit. And it's even based on like how good, like just straight up, how good are they? Like, is it a guy who averages 27 a game, or is it more of a, I don't know, like there are a lot of players that I wouldn't even consider trading, you know, getting into a conversation with Keegan Murray about. And it's to be honest, it's most of the league. There's only going to be a small grouping of players
Mhm.
that fit your player arc, that fit your age arc, that fit the things that you guys think that you're doing, that fit the team. And you can't just like go out there and try to find another player that will mess with the chemistry that you've built with Domas and De'Aaron and Keegan and all this. I don't know. I think there are deals out there though. It's going to take the Kings to be again patient with what they're doing, but also like how much do you think this roster? What is their ceiling? What is the maximum ceiling you can get to by making trade X or like that's going to be the biggest question. Are you swinging for the fences? Is it a short-term swing? Is it a long-term swing? Can you bring someone back and lock them up long-term? These are all questions that you have to mull through when you're a GM. You can't just like, you're not swapping out baseball cards.
It could be fun too, swapping out baseball
It
cards.
used to be
Well,
when
it's
you
fun.
Beckett and everything. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
I used to
Now,
be in that game.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
Yeah, me too.
I was rich.
I did
I thought I
too.
was paid. That $35 Frank Thomas card I had.
Man,
Oh, I'm paid.
I remember the first time I got one of those Beckett's and saw
Oh, yeah.
Mickey Mantle's rookie card, and it was like $750. I thought that was the most amazing thing in the world, and now it's like several $1 million.
Yeah.
Really should have followed through with that whole collecting
I
baseball.
wonder what's up with that. Why is it that card? Why isn't Willie Mays' rookie card worth that much?
It's
I don't
usually
know.
the rarity of the card.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Like
Usually
Hornets Wagner somehow is.
it's the oddest. Yeah.
Well, there was only 8 Hannes Wagners. That
Mm.
was at one point there was only 8 of them that were like ever made. And so
That's
that's why that one specific card was
it's-
worth more than
And
anything
would they
else.
come with tobacco?
Yeah. Or
Like that's
gum.
what the card.
Yeah. Tobacco
so
cards
They're
initially.
certainly different. Yeah.
There could be 8 Barry Zito cards. That doesn't mean it should be worth $10 million.
Well, that's what that stuff is based off. It's the rarity of the card.
Mhm.
Like
Which is
there's a
crazy.
Billy Ripken card that has a bad word on the bat. That's like
Yeah, the
super
bat
rare.
handle. F
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Oh no,
It's
F face. That's what it
oh,
says.
that's what it is. Yeah.
The
Yeah. And
91
that's like,
Fleer.
I don't know how much the card is, but I know that was always a collector's thing because there were so few of them because the first batch of the releases didn't catch the bad word. And so if
Yeah.
you got one of the original batches of releases, you got that card versus the ones where it was blacked out later.
How much does that Mark Jackson card go for?
Oh, I don't know. The one with the Hernandez brothers in it.
Oh,
That's
the Menendez brothers.
Menendez brothers. Yeah, the Menendez
Oh
brothers.
yeah, I was thinking about that. I think that's a hoops card, right? It's like the second year of hoops. Like they had the weird rounded, like where you're almost looking through a keyhole at the guy. So the
Yeah.
first year was white bordered. The second year, I believe, was silver bordered. And I think that's the card that has the Menendez brothers sitting like courtside.
Crazy.
Well, random.
Crazy.
Y'all can't keep up with this show. Come on, man.
I've
I'm
got
asking, get Mark Jackson on the phone. Hey, Mark, tell me about your rookie card with the Menendez brothers in the background.
Click.
that's wild.
Courtside. I like
Like
Mark.
I have a weird memory for like movie boxes for sure, but you can show me a baseball card from probably the early 90s all the way through the like late 50s and I can tell you what year the card is. Like what brand. I mean, most of them are tops of that year, but of that type, but I can tell you exactly what year that card is.
I can tell you what year Malik Monk may have become the most beloved King in recent memory, and it's this year. He's
Oh, yeah.
that dude. He is playing on an absolutely incredible level.
I'm hoping you didn't play the audio from our locker room talk with him last night because on the show. That's good.
No.
Yeah, because he was in a lively mood. He said he wasn't going to do media. And then he kept telling Shannon, I'm not going to do media tomorrow if I have to do media today. This is the worst part of the job. I hate these.
I never understand that.
He was just, no, he was just messing with us. Like he was just having a good time. And then he turned around and he may have said the S word. Yeah, he got a little loose with his his post game. But again, he was having a good time. He's a joy to be around. He's a guy like again who just brings something different, makes everyone laugh, makes everyone smile, and I really do think that he's a guy that like if you can keep him around as long as you can, you have to because at this point he's your third best player, and I don't even think it's like you're hoping that Keegan gets there by the end of the season, but right now, like Malik Monk is your third best player. And it doesn't matter whether he's coming off the bench or he's starting, it doesn't matter. The second he steps on the floor, he's been spectacular. And Mike Brown is giving more and more and more to him every game. And you see the level of confidence in him and the faith in him growing with Mike Brown. And yeah, he's that dude. Like just really, really impressive how he's developed here in Sacramento.
Well, look,
DPOG, he said it's got to be me. It's got to be me.
Well, look, and we also got to show some love for his playmaking. What do you have? 9 assists last night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Team high 9 assists.
18 points, 9 assists. I mean, he's not only is he playing well. We forget sometimes with these guys because they've been in our lives in the NBA since they were 19 years old. He looks to be improving as a basketball player. His 2 years here in Sacramento, whether it's given the opportunity, learning something, whatever, he has gotten better than he was the day he stepped here in Sacramento. He's getting better.
Without any doubt, he's a better player. And I hope that, again, I hope he puts that in the equation as to what's happening here. Like when he gets to this summer and he's trying to decide where he's going to go, he needs to understand that not only the culture that's been built here in Sacramento is great, and he's been a huge part of that, but also that this is a place that allowed him to flourish and become not just a player, but like the personality he was going to be. Because he could have been, the little brother in LA with the Lakers for another 4 years, and we would have never got to see this whole side of him. This situation gave him an avenue to grow not only on the court but as a person. And what Mike Brown not giving him free reign early in his career here in Sacramento and making him work for it, making him earn it is huge. And now what we're seeing is that you have to have one of those three on the court at all times. And the best part is when you have two of them on the court. So now you have these tandems that you can play together, whether it's Fox and Malik where they're playing off each other, or it's De'Aaron and Domas where they're playing off each other, or it's Domas and Malik where they're playing off each other. The pocket passes, everything we're seeing from Malik and Domas together as a tandem is just wild. Like Domas's usage for the game last night had to have been like in the 40s. He had the ball in his hands all the time. I mean, he was moving it super quick, but every single play ran right through him.
Domas, we didn't talk about this. Domas played 40 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Man, he was out there.
It's all. Have we gotten? And this is a tough question to ask with like 2 minutes left, James. But like, have we gotten to the point where, 18 and 17 and 7 and 40 minutes? That's what Domas does, and it doesn't really feel like a big deal anymore.
We just take it for granted.
Yes, that's what he does.
I think the whole league is just once again taking him for granted. Oh, he's just doing it there in Sacramento. Like, oh, that's just what he does. Like, no, what he does is he's one of the best players in the league. That's it. He's so incredibly impactful. And even Fox brought it up last night. He's like, Domas has played so much better defensively this year. He's like, he's stepped up like defensively. He's gotten so much better. He's stopping the drive at a different place from where it was last year. He's like, yeah, like we shouldn't forget what he's doing. We shouldn't don't lose sight of how good he is, because he's a top 10 player in the NBA.
Man, he really is.
Don't let someone write a list and tell you something different.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, that's real talk, James. The Kings are back at it tomorrow. Good win against Oklahoma City. We talked about this homestand. Oklahoma City's a tough team. You got Utah coming up. We'll get back here and we'll talk about a very spirited Washington Wizards team.
Oh man, a little gutsy group of guys.
But
there.
Man, the back half of this homestand is brutal.
Mm.
So we'll have a good time. Obviously, we'll be following along with everything on Saturday. We'll be back here to recap it all Monday, get ready for the Wizards game, and get ready for that tough stretch ahead for the Sacramento Kings. We appreciate you guys for being with us. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons before you go, and we will see you back here on Monday.